So you guys had a good debate. I was able to come into the breakout for a short while. You're ready to convince us.
Well, we all agreed, so we didn't have a debate as such, but we strengthened our own
convictions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, I think everyone's back now. Yes. Yes, we got everyone back. Okay. Nuwan, you get to choose because you weren't involved. Do you want to hear culture first or strategy first? Because you're neutral. So
I would like
you
to strategy first. Strategy first.
Strategy first. Thank you, my friend. Okay. So there we go. So the strategy team, you're going to argue first. I'm just looking at the clock. So we got 4 minutes, okay, to convince the other team why strategy now eats culture for dinner. And then we'll hear the counter argument of why culture eats strategy for breakfast. So strategy team, the floor is yours. You have 4 minutes.
Team, do you want me to speak, or Sylvia, Yolanda, and Murphy, did you want to speak?
And you go ahead. We can always supplement any points that we would like to add in.
Okay, key point first from Sylvia, really, if we think about really successful companies, and Apple is a great example where strategic thinking allowed the companies to switch from multiple products to one. It was a great example of getting the strategy right. Clearly that was successful, and thinking about how that really drove a cultural focus on a few products. So that's a wonderful example of a company that survived and thrived actually by really setting a good clarity around the strategy against which the organization could align. And again, thinking about cultural alignments. And this is really about putting in place a clear vision as well, and especially critical in the time of digital transformation. Yolanda, made a great point too, that, for companies, as individuals in organizations, we need to align against a clear plan and a vision. And really, therefore, we have a clear strategy to enable the company to survive. Culture definitely can align against that, but without values and a clear understanding of what the priorities are, it's difficult for people to know what to do. And this is really important, that people have to make choices where they work, and they love to work for companies that have a clear strategy, a clear plan for growth, and a clear set of priorities. And Murphy too agreed that when we think about organizations, we have to think about getting the strategy right first. If we don't organize the strategy, the company may not survive. But equally, culture is important, but we need to think about the sequence of events. Jana made a great point, though, that at the end of the day, we may have a clear strategy, but we need to think about execution of that. So strategy execution is the bridge between strategy and culture, and that drives the alignment. And my own view is too that when you think about the sequence of events, get the strategy right, ensure the company can survive, and then with that alignment, work on the culture to ensure that. And that we kind of got to a point where we talked about this lifecycle management process where culture and strategy mesh and align. As the company changes strategy, the culture too needs to align and adapt to that. So we definitely felt strategy was the starting point of that dialogue. Any comments from Sylvia, Yolanda, Jana, or Murphy on what I said? I'll try to summarize. And I'm only on my second coffee here, so.
Okay, Yolanda's giving you a thumbs up. So that,
okay,
let me just summarize and see if I got your argument. So you opened with the example of Apple, and even though Apple's culture was changing, it was the critical decision to reduce from 300 products to 4 products that their strategy drove, and then they reinvented the culture around that. You talked about, you need that clear, articulate strategy. And I liked your question. Do you join a company because of the culture or because of its strategy? Which is a very interesting question. I hadn't thought about it that way. And then you posed very much emphasized in the latter part of your argument, it's the importance of the sequence. How does it flow cognitively? Do you plan the strategy, and that will then drive the culture within the organization. And using your own words, strategy is the bridge. Execution is the bridge between then the strategy and the culture. So it's the strategy that comes first that will then define and drive what's happening in the culture. Is that a fair summary?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my view is, we also need to decompartmentalize strategic thinking, strategic planning, and strategy execution. They're all critical. So maybe we could tease that out another time, Robin, which would be great fun.
Yeah, no, that absolutely great suggestion. We might even do that in the conference. Good suggestion. So thank you, strategy team. Now we have the counter argument from the culture.
Okay, so the team kind of picked me to kind of start off. I kind of captured some of the things we talked about. So the team, once I'm done, if you guys can chime in, that'd be great. One of the first things we talked about was the idea of Drucker's statement that it's 60 years old and it may no longer be true. But at the same time, there are religious documents that are over 2,000 years old that deal with the human character that are still true to this day. So just because someone said something 6 years ago doesn't mean that it's not true because of time. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is culture is foundational. And the gentleman spoke and he said, well, you have to have a strategic vision, but then you have to have values. Values are behaviors that govern action, which is culture. Values are the principles of culture. You cannot remove that the idea of a company's values away from the overall culture. We also talked about buy-in. You think about any sports team that is winning a championship. What's the difference between the winning team and the losing team? It's not the capacity or the level of proficiency. It's they have more buy-in into the culture of the team, into the strategy as well as the culture of the team, and everyone buys into the bigger vision, but they're all also buying into that culture. The environment that is established, whether it's a virtual environment, the physical environment, or social environment. I remember being on a project where a CIO came in and tried to with a new strategy, and it failed because at the social level of the organization, the managers didn't want to follow that new strategy. And so they undermined the CIO's strategy because it didn't align to the organization's culture. And that CIO failed. Another time there was a project where a group tried to roll out a solution, and it was rolling it out to a very large state organization. Previously, it failed because the solution did not meet the needs of the culture. That same solution was rolled out differently and yet met the needs of the culture of the organization, and it was adopted and it's still successful to this day. Group culture. People join organizations and stay with organizations that are aligned to their culture. If you join an organization and it's not aligned to who you are, pretty soon it bristles against your core. And so you move on. You find organizations that are aligned to your culture and you stay with. And even the example of Steve Jobs, when he cut down and said, we're going to do 3 or 4 things, the culture of Apple had to be aligned to not just the overall strategy, but also the way that they went about executing. Because it meant that there was an experimental culture, but there was also a culture of focus. And they bought into the process. And without culture, without thinking about the culture, strategy fails to get executed because it requires, whether it's a digital strategy or an AI strategy or whatever, from the boardroom to the mailroom, everyone has to buy in. And if they don't buy in, it doesn't succeed. So I'll let anyone else from my team if I missed anything.
Well, maybe one thing also about culture is that it's dependent often on environment, on external environments, and also the situation. So the situational thing, for example, if the company is going under, or organization has severe problems, then the culture is more like a survival survival culture, just as an example. And people in that mode are not capable of executing a strategy which is addressing a completely different life conditions. So that's also a part where you have to read into the culture, and of course, I mean, if you get a connection between the strategy and the culture, then the strategy can affect the culture a whole lot. But if not, it's not going to succeed. That was sort of just to reinforce that point.
Oh, okay. In addition to that, I also believe that there are organizations that start operating without a strategy. And I do believe they are guided by the organizational culture. And then later on, they realize that they need to develop a strategy. And I believe that the strategy that they will be developing will be aligned and guided by the culture of that organization.
Bueno, thank you. Okay, so time's up. So let me just thank the culture team and see if I can summarize their argument. So I like your opening that just because something's old doesn't mean it's not valid. And you used the reference to religious documents, some of which are 2,000 and many years older, that are still as valid today. And, you know, culture, your counter argument is not the strategy, but the culture is the foundation at the organization. And then you made the clear argument that values are the principle of our culture. And if you're not comfortable with the culture as a new employee or employee in an organization, you're going to struggle. And to the question, you know, do you join a company because of strategy or culture? You know, you were like, well, you know, which do you buy into when you join the company? Needs don't, sorry, I'm just trying to read my own scribble. I'll go next one. So people join because of a culture was your argument. And then your last couple of comments were, you know, Apple still needed that culture in a counter to they had the strategy, but you're arguing, no, they had the culture that allowed Steve Jobs to do the turnaround. And then you need the culture that drives. So you're very opposed. You're saying culture drives the strategy, as opposed to strategy team who said first comes the strategy and then the culture. There we go.
Yes.
There's 6 million.
One or the other.
So let me just share screen. All right, here we go. So the question is, who's right? So please grab your mobile, scan the QR code. And the question is, yes, no, or not sure. Does culture eat strategy for breakfast? Okay, so you've got a choice of yes, no, or not sure. And let me just bring up the voting.
Yeah,
Okay, so we got 14 on the call and we're up to 5.
Give me a minute. I'm still trying to get to the website.
Oh, sorry. Do you need the QR? Can you see it?
No, I have it, but it wouldn't open in the browser. So I'm trying to copy it and open it in a different browser, my phone.
Oh, that's unusual. Okay. Normally Mentimeter is one of the better ones. You don't normally have those issues. So we've got 5 votes in. Everyone else, are you okay to vote? Give it another 30 seconds.
Sorry, Robin, can you just get the QR code again? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Can you see it? Or need me to read?
Yes, I can.
You see it? Okay.
Okay. Okay, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay. I haven't got any more votes in. There we go. Just refreshing. Okay. We've got a few who haven't voted. Look at that, we're split. I think that sums it up, doesn't it?
Because yeah, it sums it up because it's not one or the other.
Yeah, well said, yeah. And the not sure was me because I was told, I mean, you both had very good arguments. Oh, there we go. We have a winner by 25%.
We just need to get one more vote from another culture person.
Yeah. It is going to be an endless debate. There is no right answer. It's a very tough one. And from my own personal, and I wrote the paper that's on the implementation course on this. My goal is just that you shouldn't be locked into one or the other. We need to recognize that it's both and not either or. You need both the strategy, the right strategy, and the right culture for the implementation. My closing comment would be that the relationship with culture and implementation is that your culture drives the implementation. So two companies can have the same strategy. We want to be number one in the market with the best service, the fastest to market, but how they implement strategy is driven by their culture. All right. So thank you to everyone. Let me just get any reactions or comments. I mean, obviously, if we do it in the conference, we're going to have more time. It's going to be like, 20, 30 minutes in a breakout and longer to present. Something you'd like to see more of, less of? Can I get quick reactions?
I really enjoyed this today. I think the concept that we just went through, and then at the end doing a QR code of voting to kind of talk out and then, kind of bring the author's findings based on research to the conversation as well, really helps you think through the concepts of strategy, culture, back and forth. So this, I felt really great about this.
Okay, Joe, thank you.
I think so too.
Sylvia, please.
I think so too. Is the 1 coin, 2 sides. You always have the plus minus. When you bring those of the theory and the debate back to your real life, back to your real world, you can really think about it. Hey, in which moment I should focus on the strategy, or in which moment I should focus on the cultures. Then you really balance both, because you need both to complement each other, to help each other to move company forward. I think this is a great moment to understand and sparkle more ideas and the understanding and bring it back to the real world. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you to everyone for the opportunity to pilot. I mean, we're very much practicing what we preach. So we wanted to experiment and just see if it worked. Here's the results of last month's survey. This will interest you. We asked the question, does culture eat strategy for breakfast? We got, over 100 votes, and there was a very clear argument that said, yes, culture still eats strategy for breakfast. But it was interesting when we debated it out, and obviously lower poll, so it's not statistically relevant, but I'd just like to share that. I'm conscious of the time that the hour is up, so let me close out. Thank you for your feedback. First of all, I have to apologize because it was my fault. The wrong date went out, the mix up on the dates. Also the feedback we're going to give you, I'm going to post this week, next month's meeting. It's going to be on the second Monday of November, not the first Monday. Nuan just gave me a good excuse. It's because it's Deepa Valley. So we it's a holiday, but the other reason is just because of logistics, it's not possible. So we will send out the agenda and the invitation this week. So you've got plenty of time to lock in. And going forward, we're going to give the dates in advance and the agenda in advance. So our apologies for the mix up this month. Thank you to everyone for joining. Anyone got any final comments before we leave?
Gerald, I think, had a comment.
I need to leave. So
No problem. I
Bye.
fully understand.
Yeah, I have to leave as well. I got a meeting to jump on. Have a
Yeah,
good
so
day,
let me
guys.
wrap it up. Thank you to everyone. Always a pleasure to see you in person.